Dr. Lewis. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the 100 for having us here today and thanking each and every one of you. I know it's the holiday season, there's a lot going on, so to be here, we really appreciate seeing each and every one of you as we have this critical conversation. So as Mr. Thomas just asked about, when can we realistically see our students attending A, B, and C schools? To be clear, the first thing is, in the state of Louisiana, standards have risen. And over the next 6 years, even how standards are today, we're going to see 2 more shifts. So to give an exact date, when you're able to see all students at the absolute attend C schools, we have to know that the standards are changing in the state. So the scale or the standard continues to change. That will happen over the next 6 years. But in addition to that, this year for the first time, the State Department of Education, in addition to releasing the school performance score, which is the absolute, it says exactly how that school performed the previous year. In addition to doing that, they are also releasing a growth grade for every single school. And that growth grade says, based on where the students started at the beginning of the school year, this is where they ended as far as their growth. If students are expected to grow at least 1 grade level, but they're already behind, but in particular schools allow that particular student to grow 2 or 3 grade levels in 1 year, that's why you see some of our schools have a growth grade of A and may have a school performance score of C. That says that great things are happening at that school and that the teachers who are standing in front of those students every day, in addition to having them to be successful, they have grown more than expected. Now, let me be clear about this. This is not Henderson Lewis' definition. This is the definition from the Louisiana Department of Education that actually is set up to give a letter grade for every single school and a growth grade for every single school in the state of Louisiana. But that's why I cannot say by 2020, whatever, we know we're going to be at all A, B, and C schools because the standard is changing over the next 6 years. Senator DePlessis.
Well, I think, this is a question that Dr. Lewis actually answered very nicely. The other thing, and I've read the information from the state's report card, and really what it has said is that based on the very things that Dr. Lewis has said, we're looking at achieving mastery in around the year 2025. And so, as long as we continue to put in the efforts and put in the policies for change and to ensure that every student and every school is providing the best outcomes for our kids, I think that the trajectory is near to 2025, we should start to see that exact thing happen.
Ms. McGraw. Ms. Hall.
Okay, y'all can hear me?
No.
No, so I can talk. I don't need the mic. So what I was going to say is, thank you, Black Men 100. Thank you, Pastor Augustine. And I appreciate what you said, but I have to, before I get into that, I have to just jump a little and say, sometimes we'll think that God is closing the door, but sometimes it's somebody else that's closing the door. And we're in this church because people have closed a lot of doors on us.
There you go.
But, and they'll continue to do it if we don't fight. So I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah, you're right.
But as I see it, we're closing a C school right now with a lot of disabled children that had a good growth rate. And as long as we don't duplicate schools that are doing well and continue to close schools that we don't have to close, I don't think we'll ever get there. I think we'll always be in transition because that's what we are. We're a transition system. We're a system of non-stability where we have the most traumatized children and where we need most is stability. But I would say until parents and communities step up, the board steps up, and does what they need to do for our children, we will always be in transition. We will always be the experiment. But that's just my opinion as an advocate and a parent.
Do you have any expectations for when at least the minimum should be seen?
Well, my expectation expectation, because I have a 7-year-old in this system, and I have a 12-year-old who is in this charter school system right now. So my expectation is that we have excellence not next year, tomorrow. I want to see all of the schools funded equitably, properly. I want to see accredited principals and teachers. I want to see parent committees that decide who those teachers and principals are. I want to have voice in how my child's educated. As a taxpayer, as the people who is paying for this experiment, I think I should have some voice in it. And I think all of the parents and community should have voice in it. It shouldn't be a select group of who I don't know who, because we don't get to talk to them.
And before I address you here, the second half of the questions are actually going to be questions for parents and folk in the audience. Then we'll bring it back for some general questions for closing. Ms. McGraw, your opening comments actually lead to the next question. We know that the best schools, best education facilities are ones where community, parents, and educators are involved. At what point can the system ensure that parents and community are involved, not after someone gets a charter or gets the green light to open up a school, but in its inception, when they're planning to open up a school? When can you ensure that parents and community will be at the table in the beginning, not after the fact?
Well, I mean, funny you should say that, because we're going to get that opportunity on the 20th. The board can vote to keep these schools open, run them as direct run schools, and the parents and community have been making demands that there be committees. And it's not just the 4 schools that are closing. 35 has made this demand, Lafayette has made this demand, that there be parent committees that decide, hire, and fire, right? That help decide curriculum, that help make these decisions that are molding their children. So their children are the ones who are directly impacted. But there are also high school students who want in on this, because they're the kids who sit in the schools. So we can vote on this. Henderson Lewis can propose it like at the next school board meeting. We can not only keep these schools open, but we can decide this like as soon as the 20th. So there's a beautiful opportunity for us to do this and do it well. So I'm excited by that opportunity, so like that's just me.
Hey, Dr. Lewis.
Yes, so,
Why don't you pass it on?
yes, so when you look at school start or schools opening, I just want to first of all talk about what we are currently doing. So one, even though this is on the back end, but I just want to acknowledge this, Early Parish School Board now requires every single charter board to have at least one parent on it.
That's so thoughtful.
In addition to that, as we begin the application process during our charter cycle, many of our new applicants, they start with small programs in neighborhoods, whether it's during the summer, whether it's during the school year, like Rooted School. Before that school opened, it actually worked with a group of students over a period of time at a school that was already open. When we do the charter process, a part of the process is also to see how they engage with the community where they potentially want to go. In addition to that, superintendent, many of you are aware, I started a student advisory group, a parent advisory group, a teacher advisory group, and also now a community group. And even when it comes down to improving our process, engaging with the parent group, for example, to say this is the current process we had. They have given feedback on our previous process, but also we are utilizing them to help us inform how to change OPSB policies and procedure to continue to engage our parents in this process. Because we all know when we have parents in our community and various members at the table, the people who ultimately benefit on the back end is our children. And I believe we all are here for the children.
I agree with you, and with the whole idea that parents and community should have a stake in what's happening within their school, because at the end of the day, the outcome is going to determine that child's future. But I think we have gotten there. I mean, last session, legislative session, I believe Senator Bishop did a bill that allows for communities to come together to do their own charter. And so, to that point, we are moving in a positive direction as we learn. And it's not an experiment. I don't think this is an experiment. Let me tell you something. Let ask you this. When you allow this to dictate your life, 10 years ago, Facebook and Instagram and Google and all of that stuff was not even a part of your life. When you allow innovation and change, I'm talking, Ms. Plummer, innovation and change. When you allow for innovation and change to occur,
We're talking the law, not Facebook and not.
I'm talking the law too. The law says that a community can come together and start their own
The
charter.
law calls it an
Let's kind of bring
experiment.
it.
The law does not call it.
Yeah, everybody's gonna have to.
Oh, it sure does.
Everybody's
The
gonna
bottom
have
line
to.
Pull it
is,
up.
the bottom line
Excuse
is,
me a second. If we can't be here all day, I know I can't be here all day.
Don't call me, I'm gonna call you
And
back.
I'm just serious.
Pull
So
up the law.
what we're gonna do is, you can complete your comments in a couple minutes. We're gonna have the community be able to respond to all of the questions. Then we're gonna have a closing. I know that a lot of people have a whole lot to do, and let's just try to keep the program moving. But you can bring your comments to a close,
I'm
please.
bringing my comments to a close. The close is that communities now currently have the opportunity, if they want to have a certain type of school in their district, to open a charter, make application to charter school. And the application process today requires community input and community participation on charter boards.
Then that's, it's amazing how the conversation is leading to the next question. We talk about policies and engagement. Are there any new policies currently in committee before the board that talk about community engagement when you talk about selecting or evaluating operators? Are there any new policies on the table that would lead to community and parental engagement, whether you're evaluating or selecting new operations?
Yes, and that's what I mentioned when I just passed my previous comment. So I talked about where we are, and then moving forward, working with our parent advisory council. Of course, they participated in the last process by giving feedback, but then also the feedback that we're working to get from them is to help us inform how do we have a broader reach for our parents in our community as we are approaching approving applications and developing policy. What do we need to put in place for those things to be part of our process moving forward? So that's an ongoing process that we're in at this time.
Or any policies you'd like to see?
So there's a
Or
whole
if
bunch
you guys
of.
have advocated-
So first of all, I want to offer up. I'm just a consultant with Families and Friends of Louisiana Incarcerated Children. I don't work for them. But what I will say is, Flick, Step Up Louisiana, open quite a few organizations that are educationally engaged. Even Bar None, which is here, would be more than happy to help the school board, the superintendent, engage parents and students if that's the problem. But as far as the policies and trying to engage parents, I want to say that it has been my experience, and I'll speak for me, in this community that I have been to so many parent engagement meetings, seen so many MOUs that I could literally wallpaper this church with MOUs from charter school operators. The other thing is, as a taxpayer, I should not have to create my own charter to get a quality school for my child, to get what I want as far as education for my child, especially if there's 1,000 more people that want that kind of school. So the crazy, to me, what's insane is that we have a whole bunch of schools that nobody wanted, nobody asked for, that operate in ways that parents don't want. So what I just said, and I'll say it again, is that the board has an opportunity to say, you know what, we are going to actually really engage parents, really engage students, see what it is that they want, and then go into helping charter operators implement that in their schools, because 51% of our boards are people who are white from out of town. And if you put one parent on a board with 8 white people from out of town, they get one vote. They get one vote. That vote is not going to change how that school looks. And me, myself, having my children in 2 different charter schools, one of them a D school, how I select schools is the one that's going to do my child the least amount of harm. Not that my child, I suffer under no delusions that my child will be harmed, but the least amount of harm. That's how parents are making decisions. The fact is, y'all can create right now, y'all could get together and make that not be the case. Right now, there are a lot of boards that don't know SPED law, that don't know labor laws. There are teachers all over the city who don't get lunch breaks, who don't get bathroom breaks. There are children who don't get bathroom breaks all over the city. There are children who eat cold lunches. The amount of stuff that's going on in the city, and y'all know I know because I go in schools and advocate all the time. I'm all over this city. this, so we have the ability. I don't want to fight with y'all. I want to join with y'all to make our schools better. We want to join.
Superintendent Lewis, thank you.
You want them to do it.
Let me say this. When we talk about working together, we also have to think about what we truly mean by that. And I'll tell you, when I talk about working together, I'm not talking about Henderson's agenda. I'm not talking about this agenda. But what I'm talking about is recognizing the reality of where we are in the city of New Orleans. Recognizing where we are when it comes down to education. And realizing if we don't make tough, critical decisions, just like in this room here, if I ask people to stand and say, if you graduated from high school, please stand, they will stand. If I ask people to stand and you have a bachelor's degree, we'll have people in this room who will stand. If I ask people in this room to stand, if you have a postgraduate degree, we still will have many people to stand. But as I serve as superintendent every single day, I'm the individual. I attended a school in a parish where it probably was, if you rank the high school, it probably was the lowest of the four. But guess what? I was fortunate as a student to be one of 3 others that looked like me that was put in a track that took all the high performing students for 4 years together. So I made it. But as I make decisions about school closures, decisions about what we're going to do next for the school, I have to think about the long term for our students. Because we have a vision that says every single student receive a high quality education. And if our students are going to receive a high quality education, as superintendent, I cannot stand for F schools. Because if I stand for F schools, I don't stand for a high quality option for our students. And then we talk about, we want all of our students in the city of New Orleans to be able to work through their individual capability. That's equity. I was staying here, or I'm sitting right now, but we are not where we need to be when it comes down to equity. Now, have we done a formula that gives more for students who need additional resources? Yes. That's not the complete answer. We have to make sure where we have the shortfalls, one, we need to identify what they are and find ways to implement. And then the district vision goes on after we talk about the type of education we want and addressing individual capabilities. We want students to be successful in life. Civic, social, and economic success. I think we all want that for our individual children. And as superintendent, I have to make sure, even in tough situations, to advocate for that for our students.
Thank you. Senator Plush, you want to respond to that?
You know, we elect our school boards to help to create the outcomes that we want. We have to work with our school board, we have to work with our superintendent to help create the outcomes that we want. I'm not saying allow them to dictate and to do it without the community, but I am saying that Dr. Lewis and the board have outlined a plan. We're not going to change this overnight. It's been broken for 50, 60 plus years. But if we don't work with them and stop fighting them for our children, right, then we're never going to get past this. So I support Dr. Lewis.
Well, we're going to save Mr. Blessings for the next question. This category is under school closures. I laid it out earlier when I walked in. I said we're going to have the panel, we're going to have the community, and then we're going to have closures. And I would appreciate if everybody respect the process. When it comes time for the community or parents to speak, there's someone that's going to give you the mic so you can speak. The next category is under school closures. One of the things I learned in politics watching Dorothy Taylor, Jim Singleton, and Johnny Jackson, asked him was fiscal notes and impact statements. As a school system, and it's sort of the parents and community are working within the system, if you develop something that gives you an impact statement of what happens to communities and parents and children when schools are closed.
Let me get a close up. Let's see what they got.
So we know when schools close, one, it's tough. Two, it's an adjustment period for our students. And then our parents in that process, going through, looking for another school, is another challenge in itself. And that's why during this cycle of closing schools, we're giving our families closing school priority to give them the opportunity to be first in line to the highest performing schools we have open in the city of New Orleans.
How many
But in
seats
addition
they
to
got
that,
available
if the school is failed, you have to ask yourself the question, do you allow that child to stay in a failing school and continue to reduce their options for successful life year after year after year? Or do you get them to a high performing school for the long-term stability? I know for me as a parent, I want the long-term stability for my child. Even when my child was attending a school that's a very high performing school in the state of Louisiana, in this city, as a parent, I dealt with an issue that said to be this high performing school, it was not in the best interest of my child to stay at that school. And so we withdrew our child from that school. Because as a father, I'm thinking about if I would have kept her in that environment, the long-term negative effect it would have had on my child.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Parent advocate, Ashana. Impact statement.
So when this came about, when the school closures first came about, first of all, I want to say that two of the schools that are closed are not F schools. One of them is Cypress, which is merging. And the problem with that merger is that Cypress is a C school and they're merging with another school that's a C school. But the C school they're merging with does not have the proportionate amount of children with disabilities. When you have children with disabilities in your school, especially children with learning challenges, it brings down your letter grade. So if they're at a C, and this other school that doesn't have that percentages that has a C, when you take that amount of children with disabilities and put them in that school, it's going to automatically drop that grade. So that's one. Edgar P. is a school that wasn't an F school, but we're not even going to talk about that. What I did is I started calling people. I started calling psychologists, specialists, to find out what are the impacts of schools closing. What are the advantages? So like if I'm believing that if my school board is closing schools, there must be an advantage. And so what I found out was Chicago did a study, because they've been closing schools for a long time. And what they found in the study that they did was that there was no advantages to closing schools. In fact, all that happened was harm to children and community. And so they did this study, and I sent this study to our school board members, as many of them as I could, because I wanted them to read it. And I know they're going to say New Orleans is different. So my suggestion to them is that they do a study so that we don't harm our children, especially our most vulnerable children. And a lot of our children, we know, are on the trauma spectrum. We know that. And we know that children with trauma need stability more than anything. But then also, whatever happened to giving schools the help they need to bring up their letter grade? So,
I have Ms. Bernard, you must have helped lay out the questions because it flows right into. But it really shows your level of concern, and also your level of intellect on this piece,
That's right.
and the fact that you understand. What are the determinants for school closing? Who determines that they close? And what is the process for communicating that with parents and community?
Yes, so when we open a charter school, that particular contract has, of course, a start date, an end date. They also have information of how you can have a breach of contract. And our district, under our unified district now, I should say, we have a unified performance contract that actually tells you what the standards are that schools have to meet to be renewed. But then also it talks about those standards where if schools are rated F, it says clearly those things that must happen. So once the school is up for renewal, we follow our performance framework and make a determination if the school can be considered for renewal. In addition to doing that, how we communicate with our families. During this particular cycle of what I would say is non-renewal of schools, at the end of the school year, early summer, every single school, as well as the district, we were able to receive information that gave us a very clear indication that when we do the renewals review during this last few months, what our school was going to be in the window to be renewed. Many of you probably saw that during late enrollment, I did not allow students to attend a school that was potentially going to close the next year, because at that moment, I had enough key information to say that this school, based on the previous test data, probably would not be renewed. And I shared with the families through the schools to say, one, you have to be very clear and transparent with your families that you're going through a renewal process, and you have a lot of key data that says that you possibly will not be renewed, and be very clear and very transparent with your family. Because what happened in previous years, when you would get to the month of December, parents didn't know the schools were up for renewal, and that was the problem.
Thank you, Senator Fletcher. I think that brings us to the next question. What measures will the compliance office put in place so that communities and parents know what violations are that school are already under? What are the SPS scores? And so instead of the community learning after the fact, that even when before kids get to that school or while they're in that school, that they'll already know what's the standing of that particular institution.
Yes. So when it comes down to violations in our schools, say for instance, a school has a tier 2 violation. One, at our school board committee meetings, and we televise those things, it's going to be shared. It's going to say what the violation is. In addition to that, we post those violations to our website. When those violations are clear, it's also notified that they have met the standards. But in addition to doing that at the local level, a lot of, when you talk about school closure, it's about academic performance. And so the state, just now because of federal guidelines, schools that either did not meet an overall standard or didn't meet standards for a subgroup, they may be placed in intervention. And they're required to actually put a plan in place, but at the district level, myself and my chief portfolio officer, Amanda Akins, what we do, just recently, as we finished renewing schools, all of our DNF schools, what we're going through is sitting down. I see even one of our board chairs in the back, sitting down with F schools to say, you're F-rated school. We want to be clear that if your school is F-rated next school year and you're not up for renewal, the school district is going to take action. What's your plan? Being able to understand that plan, but then we have a school support office that sits under Amanda that works. So it's one thing to do compliance, but we know that compliance is one thing and support is support. And provide support for our schools to make sure we're guiding them in the right direction. For example, I talked earlier about the state standards change. Where if the standards change, and if you have not changed to meet the standard, you can't expect kids to excel on the test. Let's just be clear. So even having conversations a year ago with schools and their performance decline, asking a very simple question. Have you implemented the new Tier 1 curriculum that the state says, here are options that you can choose from? And if you choose from these options are aligned to what students will see on the state test. And if you say no, that's a problem. And then going a step further, it's one thing to have solid curriculum in the class so that you can prepare kids, but if you don't have a qualified teacher, and And we know in the city of New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, and beyond our state, we have a teacher shortage. So that's why in New Orleans right now, we have a campaign in the schools for New Orleans, Teach No, to get more individuals interested and committed to teaching here in the city of New Orleans to educate our young people.
Ms. Bernard, I'll ask you that question a different way. How much more helpful would it be if the compliance office made parents and community aware of violation of the audit, conduct, SPS scores? How much more helpful would that be to you guys if there was a process in place that you guys could follow for that type of information?
Oh my God. First of all, that's what I feel like we've been begging for the last 10 years. I mean, so one of the things that we often see, I often see, is violations in federal, state law, right? First violation. And then you see violations, like a lot of sped law violations with the amount of children that, you know, is supposed to be in that class, who's getting the extra help, who's getting IEPs, IEP 504 violations, and the fact that parents will ask for them to be updated, might not have them for a year. I'll come in and they've been asking for it for 2 years and haven't got it yet. So that would be incredibly helpful. But not only that, but you guys are, not only would that be helpful, but to actually have a process where schools are held accountable. Because here's the thing that I've seen, is that a lot of people have been telling people about these violations, but nothing has been happening to the schools who do the most violating. Not only that, but there's no rubric in place. So if you have a school, let's say you have a CFO who has 3 schools, but he has like a D, a C, I don't know, and a teetering on F school. That person can get another school to run, and they have probably done all kinds of violations whilst in the past. So if there's actual accountability, there's an actual process that parents can go to and say, hey, this, and then once that parent goes, then there's some type of website we can go to. So like I have a son on the autism spectrum. I would love to be able to look on the one app and see what schools have qualified, certified autism specialists, right? So then I would know where to put my son. Now, right now, there's 3 schools.
You don't have a choice when they get in.
So yeah, that would be wonderful. And I would say, please partner with the community, because we actually do know, because a lot of us have children in these schools, we're going through this. So if you actually talk to the parents, and I mean not just from being 10 parents, but from being more parents, you'll find out.
I think we can stay with you because what is the current process of intervention when the system is already on alert that a school will probably close? From a parental view and from a system view, what is the process for intervention before we get to school closed?
From a parental view, there is no process of intervention. We'll let you know that your school is about to close. We will let you know your school is closing in the middle of the year.
Superintendent Lewis.
So that's why when it comes down to D and F schools, and I'll start with the F schools. Whether it's an F school that's up for renewal next year, or an F school that's up for renewal in 2022. We're sitting down having the same conversation and meeting and working with those organizations to one, to hear and see their plan, but then also to see what's happening in the classroom in those schools. But then also as we talk about these schools, again, that may or may not be up for renewal. Sitting through our school support office, working with them, taking our staff to have ongoing meetings, conversations, and support to help them, whether it's curriculum, get them connected to the right organization so that we can support that particular school. Because at the end of the day, when the school closes, we know what happens, and already what I described, our children, the transition that they have to go through. So at the end of the day, I would not want to see school closures. But we have to get to that point of addressing the needs in our district, making sure that our A and B schools continue to do well, and those that are doing well, I'm working very hard to get those to expand. For example, Audubon has school uptown, now we have Audubon Gentile. Schools doing well, let's replicate what you're doing and provide it to more families. So we need to create opportunity to replicate those things that's working, but again, That's going to continue to happen as we add more schools to those new schools over time.
Thank you. Ms. Vice Senator, President, Federation.
Well, you know, I think that, just as you said, you know, my point of this is that I'm a little confused because in the beginning of this, we're saying that it's a greater impact when you close a school or sanction a school that has not been providing better outcomes for our kids. And now we're saying we shouldn't be closing the schools, right? We should, you know, we should try and figure out how we can help those schools stay open. And so I think this has been an argument. I was in the legislature 10 years ago alone. And I think this is an argument that we've been hearing, or I've been hearing, for the last 20 plus years, right? And so if we keep trying to do the same thing, we're going to keep getting the same thing. And so that is why I have become a proponent of choice in all forms. Choice allows for families, and I think there's not one person in this building that if they had opportunities to provide the best educational outcome for their kid at whatever school they feel that their kid can learn in, right, that they would take that opportunity. And so I think that as we work through this transition of designing what we need to have happen for our kids, for our community, that we are going to have some growing pains. But I do believe that our leadership is working towards the outcomes that we all want to see.
Not our leadership.
Well, that brings us to the next segment, and that
It's
is
not our leadership.
comments and questions from our parents.
Can I say one more?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Ross.
So one more thing I wanted to say is that you're absolutely right. I do believe when we say do the same thing, we're going to get the same result. But I wanted to say that we have not done a study on what works yet. So for us to keep shutting down schools when there are studies that prove that it does more harm than good, I feel like, I don't just feel like, I know it's not right. It's more than not right. It's not professional. Like to keep doing things when studies are coming out of other places saying this is not what is helpful, especially for poor children, especially for minority children, especially for children with disabilities. And that is the big crux of the children whose schools are being closed. And the reason why they're being closed is because they need more resources. We could do a real improvement plan. We could make sure that, again, parents, students, community come together, choose a school leader who's going to run that school better. Make sure that school has the resources it needs. Because if we look at the schools that are performing well, a lot of them have veteran teachers, a lot of them have certified educators, and a lot of them have a lot of resources and smaller class
Let's go back to the Orleans Parish public school system.
Thank you. Now
So that's what I wanted to say.
now we're in the section for
Thank you.
comments. It's 10 minutes to 11 right now, and this room is booked until 11:30. Someone's supposed to be walking around with the mic. If you have a general question, could you present your question in a minute, in 2 minute responses? But the topic is, if you're an advocate or if you have a kid in the system, how has school closing